Hey folks, welcome back to the channel. We've spent the last, year or more going through these episode commentaries. And at the very beginning, we promised you that we would cover every single episode. And that includes the great ones like KITT vs. Carr and Goliath Returns, and the not so great ones like Burial Ground. Now, some of you guys are probably going to say, hey, I like Burial Ground. Well, that is fantastic. It deserves to have a fan. I am not one of those fans. And because of that, there's really not a ton to say about this episode. So, what we're going to do is we're going to supplement our episode commentary with actually something that is really, really, really cool, something you've never seen before, and something related to this episode. We've recently acquired some dailies from this episode. Now, what are dailies? Dailies are the rough cut of footage shot on a given filming day, right? So they film this rough footage, and then the director is able to look at it and see if it, corresponds with his vision and all those different things. So our good friend Tom over in the Airwolf community has graciously provided us some fantastic dailies footage from Burial Ground that we are going to share here with his permission. Some really cool things. So after our commentary, we're going to go over the dailies footage we have. So you're going to want to stick around for that. All right. So with that said, it's time to dig in to Season 4's Burial Ground. Production 60204, Burial Ground. This episode was written by Michael Eric Stein and directed by Chuck Bale. It originally aired on NBC Friday night, 8 p.m. on October 25th, 1985. It was filmed from July 25th through August 5th of 1985. It was the 67th episode to air, but the 66th to be produced. The synopsis reads as follows. Michael's vacation is once again interrupted when a young woman needs the Foundation's help in order to stop a greedy businessman from gaining control of sacred Indian territory. Now, we acquired many years ago some behind-the-scenes NBC memos on the development of this episode and some other ones from Season 4. But one brief note was given during the early development of this episode. It said, first draft was adequate with sufficient action and jeopardy. Notes given to make some of the specific beats more creative and to tighten the story structure. And that's all it said. So with that said, let's dig in. After Michael is given his assignment by Devin in the convertible kit, he presses a button and it transforms to the hardtop car. This is actually footage taken from the episode Out of the Woods in Season 4. Now, in airing order, Out of the Woods would still be a little ways away. But in production order, Out of the Woods was actually filmed right before Burial Ground. And that's how they have the footage here. So Burial Ground actually features footage from an episode that we're not going to see for a couple months. And if you're curious, there were 9 cars used as kit in this episode. We have this car, if you could consider it a car. It's really it's like a buck on a trailer, but we'll count it. We've got the Season 3 and 4 hero car. We've got the full-time convertible car. The right-hand blind drive car. The hardtop stunt car, the same one we've seen all the way since Season 1. The Season 4 insert car. The other hardtop stunt car, this is the one we own, one of the 2 we own. The full-time Super Pursuit Mode car. And this car, which we'll talk about here in just a little bit. And those are your cars in Burial Ground. So let's continue on. Oh, look, I guess we're talking about this car now. Okay, so for most of Season 4, for pretty much all of Season 4, they had a dedicated Season 4 insert car. Now, that insert car was, we've talked about it a little bit, but it was actually a stock Trans Am on the outside, still had the gold trim on it. And then the inside kind of had a fake Knight Rider dash in it, but it did have a fully functional overhead console. Not fully functional, but it had LEDs in it that lit up and it looked nice. Now, for some reason, I think that insert car must have had some issues during this episode, or for whatever reason it wasn't available, because there's certain scenes in Burial Ground specifically where we see Hasselhoff driving this alternate car. And we don't exactly know 100% which car this is. It's so hard to tell because there's not many details. We see it's got just a blank overhead in here. We see it has black trim here instead of chrome trim. Which indicates it's an 83 or later car, or the door panel was just swapped in. So there's just not enough details here, but we do know it's not the insert car. Michael and Kit are pulling in. They arrive at the Kobe Indian Reservation. In reality, this is the Desert Home Mountain Retreat on West Sierra Highway in California. So let's take a look and see what it looks like today. Pretty much the same. In fact, if you do a comparison here of the rocks on this arch and look at them today, they're exactly the same. So this is where we see Kit pulling in, and then a lot of the buildings, I think everything back there is still all original. Yeah, in fact, take a look at this. The meeting hall. You can't go in here, but there's the meeting hall right there. See it? Sticking up. All right, so the main antagonist in this episode is Robert Pine. Robert is probably best known for his role on this late 70s, early 80s show Chips. This was a couple years after Chips had ended, so he's guest starring here. Also, Chris Pine, the famous, currently famous star of Star Trek movies and some other stuff. This is his father. Michael and Kit arrive at the burial ground, which is actually Bronson Canyon. Same location as the Bat Cave for the 66 Batman show. Also, Bronson Canyon was used in a number of episodes. The one that's coming to mind right now is Season 2's A Knight in Shining Armor. So here's a neat little Easter egg, or goof, if you will. So what we're looking at here, this is the Season 4 hero car, also used in Season 3. Take a look at this overhead console. How many LEDs do you see? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 10 LEDs. Now watch this. The Season 4 insert car. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So that's one easy way to tell when you're looking at the inside if it's the hero car or the insert car. It's how many of those LEDs are on the side. And that goes back to what I was talking about earlier about how they had that substitute insert car for this episode. The panel was all black up here. There were no buttons, no LEDs, nothing. All right, so Michael and Susan Christopher are getting snakes dumped on their head. Jack Gill is the one throwing the snakes. He's up above them. And I believe the story goes, I think he's told the story that it was during the filming of this scene that his wife, Morgan Brittany, went into labor and they had their daughter, Katie Gill. And that was all happening during this scene. So they filmed it and then he left, presumably for the rest of the episode, or at least for a day or two, and went to have his daughter being born. So this hero car still exists today, and just something really, really cool that I think you guys are going to like. So take a look at this. Look at the front nose of the car, of this specific car. Look how this headlight door is like popped up a little bit, right? It's not flush with the nose. Now look at the nose over here. It has this little bit of a sag right here, okay? Now take a look at this. Here's a picture of this car, not today, but a couple years ago. Look. Still has the gap, that headlight door sticking up. Still has, hard to see from this angle, but still has a little bit of droop right there in the front nose. If that isn't proof it's the same car, I don't know what is. Although we actually have a ton more proof than that. But there you go. And here's KITT analyzing the Camaro that's coming after him with the body and the bomb in it. And if you look closely, look at those wheels on this Camaro. They are actually KITT's rims and hubcaps. Even though the Camaro wasn't having those in real life, it does in this wire diagram. So then we see these shots of, who is it, Eagle? Or no, it's not Thorn. I think it's Eagle. Wedging down the gas pedal of the Camaro. This is actually a close-up of one of the Knight Rider Trans Ams. This is not that Camaro. And we then see the close-up here of him wedging the other end against the seat. This is, again, not the Camaro. This is one of the Knight Rider cars. This is a PMD seat. And this thing right here is actually an eyelet that is bolted into the floor pan of the car. And actually, ironically enough, one of our two surviving Knight Rider cars still has all their eyelets in it. And we think this was for maybe strapping down equipment or harnesses or different things like that. But that's what that is right there. All right, so then KITT slides down the hill. This is a miniature, obviously, lots of miniature work for this scene here. And then we see this is kind of a blur, but we see all the dirt flying over the windshield. And actually, for a brief second, in the reflection of the windshield, you can actually see one of the small round stunt wheels of one of the Knight Rider cars. You see the wheel here, and here's one of the three. There are the three spokes right there. That's one of their small stunt wheels. And then we're back to miniature work, and this is the Camaro on fire. And oddly enough, this is after KITT had turbo boosted away from the scene. But if you look in the bottom right-hand corner, right here, you can actually see the KITT model just sitting right there. All right, so then we see RC here. What's neat is the overalls he's wearing, these Knight Industries overalls, which I know in Goliath we saw some Knight Industries overalls. I don't remember if these are identical or if these were new ones for this episode, but still really cool to see that little detail added in. And then, of course, he leaves, and Devin mentions, it's a little unsettling to have the semi driving down the highway driverless, which is the first indication we ever get that the semi has autopilot, which is kind of neat. And of course, in the next episode aired, The Wrong Crowd, we actually see RC behind the wheel, his legs are up, and the semi is driving by itself. But after those two episodes, that we never hear about it again. And while we're looking in the semi here, that toolbox, that Sears Craftsman toolbox that Bonnie and Michael are around, that still exists today. That's actually in the hands of one of the property masters of the show. The equipment up here at the top is not there. This was all rented from Modern Props up here and kind of put in the place. But the toolbox itself is with the Knight Rider property master to this day. And another neat little plot point, KITT is actually, the front end of KITT is actually elevated right here, right? Because RC was working underneath. So it's basically the hydraulic lift. The one, again, we see in Out of the Woods, even though Out of the Woods hasn't aired yet, but it was produced right before this episode, right? So it's almost like they were kind of starting to get into sync with things that happened in previous episodes, because you see KITT's up here and then Michael presses some buttons and the whole front end lowers. So, there's your hydraulic lift here, even though we don't see him press the button. And in the background here, we see one of the Universal Studios GMC Astros, part of their transportation fleet. And Michael's escaping the compound, and we see a close-up of the Knight plate. This is one of the first times in the series that we see vacuum form Knight plate. Up until this point in the series, the plates were made one of two ways. They were either metal plates with hand or die cut letters applied, or they were made of masonite with some silk screening and a combination of letters applied. But here, they're actually vacuum formed, and I don't think an original Knight vacuum form plate has ever been found, but hopefully there's still one out there, because that'd be really cool to see. And I thought this is kind of cute, I guess. They're in super pursuit mode and they're flying down the road, and Michael's real cool and confident, and the other two passengers are just totally frightened out of their mind. And the guy in the passenger seat, what's his name? Not Barber. That's Barbara Ralston. What's his name? I can't remember his name. Anyways, he's clearly looking at Michael like he's totally out of his mind, which, yeah, I can understand that. Here's a super rare look at a close-up of the roof of the full-time Super Pursuit Mode car. This is the one that actually had the working emergency braking system flaps. And you can see here, you can just barely see the outline, right? And what's funny is if the Super Pursuit Mode car was real and everything was, was retracted, the car would look terrible. There'd be so many seams across the car. And this is just kind of giving you a glimpse of what that would look like. And then there's also this giant, I don't know, piece of weather stripping right here. Something weird right there going on. Okay, so like I said, short and sweet for Burial Ground. But now let's turn our attention to these awesome dailies.
Camera mark? You mark? Roger.
Here it comes, here it comes. Boom! Dig in, Kit! Come on, dig in!
No smoke's getting away, Michael. There's no traction.
All right, I'm gonna hit turbo boost. Try and land you somewhere solid. Here we go!